Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Williamson. I'm one of the founders of Ship Thrifty and Ship to Military. I'm here today to share some information, talk with you a little bit about military shipping. It is usually one of the top 5 things that come up on a deployment, and we get a lot of questions about how do you do military shipping. The information that I'm going to share with you can change from time to time. And just know that you can always find updated information on shipthrifty.com or shiptomilitary.com. And feel free to call us with any questions. Any kind of rate information, you can actually check right on the tools to figure out what your best option is for shipping. That being said, we started Ship Thrifty in 2017. In 2018, we got into military shipping. Today, we are an official USPS partner. We're Military OneSource vetted. We are an American Legion Auxiliary partner, Boost Our Mothers of America partner. And we work with nonprofits across the country to help get care packages to our troops. We will also teach at pre-deployments to be able to share information with family members. Shipping, like I said, is one of the top 5 things that comes up. It is something that a lot of people have questions about, and I'm here to hopefully answer some of those questions for you today. That being said, there are 6 things that most people don't know about military shipping. The first one is that they have special city, state, and zip code fields to not identify a service member and keep their location disclosed, if you will. So city fields, APO, FPO, DPO, it's just Army Post Office, Fleet Post Office, or Diplomatic Post Office. So when you're looking at the piece of paper that you got when your service member was deployed, or if you're brand new to care package shipping, that's all that is. It's just the city that they're at. It's a disclosed city specifically for APO, FPO, DPO locations. State, again, AA is Americas, AP is Pacific, AE is Europe. So general. Zip codes, they group into categories depending on where somebody is. Notice that there are APO and FPO zip codes at both these places. So that being said, let's move on. The next thing we're going to talk about is the addresses. They differ a little bit. The most important piece after the city, state, and zip code is going to be these designators. So is it a unit and a box number? Is it a PCS and a box number? Is it a ship number or a hull number? Those items are going to identify the second identifier as to the location of where that package is going for the Postal Service. USPS is the only carrier that can actually deliver to a base. And so a lot of times USPS comes up for military shipping. It is good to know that any carrier can deliver packages to bases inside the US. So it doesn't always have to be USPS unless it's going to an APO, FPO, DPO. Next up, let's talk about addressing. It's really important to get your addresses right because obviously if you don't, it's not going to get there. The bad thing is packages are non-refundable. So if you make a mistake, it's kind of a bummer because it comes back and it can come back for a couple different reasons. So here's what I want to share with you to prevent packages from coming back. You're going to want to put your service member's full name on there. You don't have to spell out the middle name, but at least put a middle initial on there. We already talked about the APO, FPO, DPO, those pieces being key to get the package going in the right direction. The next point is those unit and box numbers. You don't want to include a country code on here or any country information. So if your person is in Syria, you don't want to put an address line to Syria, right? That can accidentally get a package going into an international mail stream, and you want to avoid that for that security protection of those service members. The other thing is packages going to any service member or soldier or chaplain. They're not going to be delivered because of security reasons, right? They want to know who that person is. It might be Chaplain Smith. That might be okay if you know who you're sending something to, or Chaplain J. Smith, but don't not include any information. And it's best to have that full name as much as you can. Let's move on to the next point, which is package size maximum. So there is a maximum of 70 pounds. You can actually do a little bit more if you go to the post office. I think it's 130, maybe 135, don't quote me on that. But it literally adds $100 to the cost of your shipping. I never recommend that. If there's any way to get those items into smaller boxes, you will always save money. Your package can't exceed 108 inches. That's length. and the girth, which is the width and height around that package. So those are your measurement dimensions to keep in mind. Ship Thrifty won't even let you put a package in over 70 pounds. So we kind of do some back end stuff to help make sure that you're going down your best path. Let's talk a little bit about military restrictions. So there are regular mail restrictions, and then there are military restrictions. So there are base specific restrictions, and then there are restrictions for mail going to an international location. And so it's important to know that, you know, some things might be allowed to be sent here within the US in a limited quantity, like a hand sanitizer. You could maybe send that in a gift package or something. But when you're talking about going to a different country, it can't be sent. So you guys need to know what can and can't be sent overseas. And it's not just like aerosols. You never want to send aerosols. Shaving cream, you don't put shaving cream on your customs. Put shaving lotion or shaving bar or something, or non-aerosol to identify that it's not an aerosol item. These things go through scanners at kind of like the airport, and so they can see what's inside of them. So hopefully if you didn't have non-aerosol or you didn't say lotion, somebody would be able to see that. When you get to the point of items with alcohol, so that's the trigger for hand sanitizer. It's got alcohol in it. Glasses wipes have alcohol in it. You can't go overseas. Pads, alcohol pads for cleaning or doing other things, can't go overseas. Lithium batteries are a restricted item. It doesn't mean it can't go. There are very limited circumstances where it can. It would have to be a brand new electronic. It would still have to be in the box. It would have to follow the requirements for that battery being in there. And on top of that, you'd have to make sure that it was okay for a cell phone to be sent to the base, because sometimes they can't be sent because of just the operation that's going on, right? Offensive pornographic images aren't allowed to be sent. That's more of a religious thing and just a respect thing for the military, right? They don't need that kind of stuff. They're trying to have a mission that is positive and doing the stuff that they need to do. And those things end up being a distraction for people. And it's just negative. Should not be sent. Bulk quantities of religious materials, that's often another religious thing, and something that just should not be sent. You can send a Bible in a box if you've got somebody who is asking for one, or you're just sending them in your care packages. It's okay. Pork products can't be sent to a lot of the overseas places that are in Muslim countries. So those shouldn't be included. Sometimes even meat products can't go. So even your beef jerkies can't go. Same thing with coffee or over-the-counter meds. So I can tell you that Germany restricts coffee, and they restrict coffee because it's rationed. So there's things behind stuff that we don't always know about. So always check the military restrictions. There is a link to this military restrictions at the bottom of Ship Thrifty and the bottom of shiptomilitary.com both. There are also box size restrictions. The most common one is 27 by 14 by 14. So be careful that if your zip code has a box size restriction, that you're not sending something bigger, because it will actually be returned, and then you'll be out the postage on that as well. The next big question we get is delivery times. How long is it going to take for a package to get there? It generally takes about 2 weeks for it to arrive. We've seen them take as little as 7 or 8 days going to the Middle East. Sometimes during the holidays, they can take a little bit longer to get to places like the Horn of Africa. So just be aware that it's going to take a little bit of time. Generally, 2 weeks is good range for that. From that point, it's important to know that customs forms are mandatory for military packages. They are going to a foreign country, even though they're considered domestic mail, it has to have a customs form with it. And the customs forms, you can do them one of two ways. You can go to the post office, you can take the form, you can fill it out. They do have an online one now as well, but you can fill the form out, where it's going, who it's going to, and then detail the information that is going to be put in there. So maybe you've got cotton socks, or you've got cotton t-shirts, or, you know, Reese's peanut butter cup candies. You'll also want to say how many of those particular item and what's the unit cost for them. Then you go up to the counter at the post office types in everything that you've written down, and then they generate that form and you pay for it. The other way to do them is to do them online. Like I previously mentioned, I can speak to you about Ship Thrifties because that's what I'm most familiar with. So you say you have a gift and you literally type the information out. So maybe you've got socks or C batteries or baby wipes or granola bars. You type each one up, you'd say how many of those and the cost per each one, and they go right onto your label, which means there's no extra customs forms to fill out. So it's all done once you're on here. Another really important thing to know is you don't have to write them when you're doing them online because it's automatically triggering the information. You never want to write on a label. So if you have a mistake on a label, you want to cancel it because everything, all your information in here is actually going into these barcodes. The other nice thing is when you create your labels online, you not only save money, but you literally can skip the line, drop them off on the counter and step out of the post office. The next area I want to talk about is ways to save money and some tips. So the first set of tips is going to be if you've got liquids or powders in your care package, you want to put those in plastic Ziploc baggies or, Target bag and twist it up. If those open up, they can ruin the rest of the contents from your care package, and it's just a bummer. The boxes take a beating. They're going through conveyors, they're dropping down from different things. So you want to use quality boxes. The post office boxes, they do have free boxes, but most of the time those boxes aren't actually free. It actually costs more many times to use that priority mail service, especially if you're online. If you're going to the post office to ship, it probably is your least expensive ways to use a priority mailbox. Or the flat rates, I'm sorry. Your labels must match. So if you're doing a priority mailbox, if you have a USPS box, your label, if you're doing it online, has to be a priority mail label. I always like to recommend using plain boxes, and I'll go into some more savings tips on that in a little bit. You can reuse boxes as long as there's no marks on there. Your other labels are torn off. And when I say no marks, let's say you go to the grocery store and you get a box that has some cleaning supplies in it. You want to make sure that you remove all that cleaning supply language from there or put a sticker over it that can't be seen through, because USPS could mistakenly see that as dangerous or hazardous goods, and then your package can come back and you're out that shipping money. Use all the space in your box. Fill it up to the top, don't overstuff it. It keeps stuff from sliding in the box when it's moving. And I always recommend using things that are reusable. So maybe you got a plastic container in there with some, homemade cookies if you're making some homemade cookies for your son or daughter or a cousin or uncle. The other thing is plastic baggies can be nice for reusing if you have some extra space, but usually candy or other items, socks, those kinds of things can easily be used to fill that box up to make it full. Watch out for the timing of sending chocolate. Sometimes it's really hot in certain locations, so you might want to be aware of that. Although I've never had a service member say they wouldn't eat the melted chocolate either, but up to you. Insurance coverage, there are basic limits on insurance. Priority mail and Ground Advantage for USPS both include $100 of insurance. So if you have items that are over $100, you're going to want to add supplemental insurance, because if something happens to that box, you won't be able to do any claims on that for over $100. Ship Thrifty does offer supplemental insurance discounts, so that would be an option. If you're sending more expensive items, you might want to take a picture of the stuff that's in your box before you send it, along with any receipts. So in the event that you do need to file a claim, you have that information available. The other thing that I would say is I would not recommend sending cash or gift cards. It's risky. Military mail is subject to search, and if they need to open it, sometimes things fall out of packages, sometimes they get misplaced. You're better off to do money transfers for those situations. We have way more tips than this on our Ship to Military site, so feel free to check that out. Let's talk a little bit about boxes and saving money. I got into this a little bit and said, let's put a pin in it, coming back to the pin. So there are free boxes at the post office, right? Which most of you probably know. What I can tell you is that if you are shipping online, you can save up to 50% by changing your box. Because of the discounts that are available online, switching those over to the same size 12 by 12 by 6 box that you buy, Uline has them for $1 a piece. You can get them on Amazon for about $1.50 to $1.79, depending. That's an option. Switching those boxes can save you a ton of money, especially, and shipping varies depending on where you are across the US. And so I would just say, I highly, highly recommend just getting your own boxes because you will save money overall on shipping. The other thing that I can say is depending on where you live, it might cost less to do a 16 by 12 by 12 box, which you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's, than doing 3 of the smaller boxes. So our tools will allow you to go in there and try different options. Another thing is you don't want to go over 3, 4, 5, 6 cubic inches. And what that means is a 22 by 12 by 12 box or variation of there. And the reason being is USPS adds surcharges for boxes when they get over that size. They also add surcharges when they get over certain weights. So if you have a box that's over 20 pounds, in many cases, it instantly adds $10 to your cost. So try to keep your packages smaller. It didn't used to be like this. This happened probably about 2 years ago. And we always try to stay up to date on the things that can help you guys save money. So there's a couple of my money saving tips. The other one that I'm going to say is that if you're shipping stateside, using bigger boxes actually makes a little bit more sense because you can save even more money by leveraging other carriers in many cases. Just be careful because the bigger and the heavier your box gets, it can go into dimensional charges with the other carriers, and that can add extra dollars as well. Let's talk about things that come up that you should know. So during the holidays, last year they didn't do it. It's April of 24 right now. Last year, the USPS did not do surcharges. Sometimes they do. Normally, if they do, it's from October to the end of January, beginning of October to end of January. And those can add 50 cents or so to a box. The flat rates usually go up. So it's kind of an across the board thing. The post office does basically adjustments to rates 2 times a year. It's usually in July and at the end of January. So you can be aware of that.